Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into the North Main Minute. I'm Joshua Doby. A term which we've heard here, and I'm grinning because it's something that we heard a lot in the 1970s, for those of you who can remember the 1970s, and haven't heard now for a couple of decades, but now we're starting to hear it again, is this term of stagflation. Now, what is stagflation? I'm not going to get into the real granular parts of the Econ 101 aspect of things, but just a couple of big points to keep in mind, and then we'll talk for a few seconds about where stagflation may be or could be in your considerations. Stagflation, in short, is persistent and higher than normal inflation with stagnant or declining growth, or a recession kind of space. So higher than normal inflation, flat to declining growth or recessionary kinds of spaces. Well, why is that such a big deal? Well, I think you can understand with higher inflation, especially persistently higher inflation, things get more expensive. And if we have slowing growth, that means generally speaking that the economy is weaker. A lot harder for the economy to combat that higher inflation when those things are the case. Very often as well, we have higher unemployment. So when we look at that and we say, okay, are we in a space of stagflation or is that a risk? It's always a risk. It's always something that's on our radar screen. At this point, we don't see it as a huge probability with where we are. Not because we're not in a space of inflation. We definitely have that variable in the algorithm. We certainly have a rising interest rate environment as well. That's definitely in the variable. But we don't have a rising unemployment at this point. Now, if we get to a space where employers are feeling the pinch of that inflation with consistency and they need to slow down their employment efforts or their hiring efforts, we may see that kind of thing come into play. At this point, that's not the case because our unemployment rates are pretty low, but it's definitely something that you want to keep on your radar screen in this season of higher inflation and higher interest rates, which really haven't been on our radar screen with any significance for the last decade and a half. So definitely important for you to keep in mind. Definitely important as you're watching your news programs and reading the news articles to keep it in perspective about where things are and what it actually can mean for you. If you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, perhaps to talk about stagflation or some things you're seeing on the news, and then more specifically, how it applies to your plan and your portfolio, love to hear from you, northmainfinancial.com.